All right, I'm here with Kat Lovelace, who was the college girlfriend of Amy Lynn Bradley and appeared in the documentary that everybody's watching on Netflix these days. And I've talked to Kat a couple times while working on this book. I think we met about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer. But I wanted to check in with you, Kat, and see how you were doing. What's the response been like for the documentary? What was it like being in the like how has the documentary affected you since it came out?
Thanks, James. Yeah, it's been an interesting experience, I think, overall. Something that's been kind of quiet and um, personal for so long was an interesting way to kind of talk about it in such a public way.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you heard from a lot of people since the documentary was released?
I've heard from people in my life for
Yeah.
sure. I've heard from a lot of people that I went to college with and people I went to high school with that were just, kind of connecting. But the really cool thing was hearing from personal strangers or strangers who had a personal connection to the story. They've been following it. They were happy to hear more about Amy's story just in general, and who she was. And I think that was probably the most beautiful part of the experience outside of really reconnecting with my friends who were in the documentary or Molly, who, I've been friends with over the last 30 years. Um,
Sure. Sure.
that was the most impactful thing to me was just the overwhelming support I saw
Good. Good.
personally.
And how are people finding you? Are you on social media?
I am on social media. I
And you
have
have
been.
you have a Substack that you just started too, which I'd like to hopefully people will go to your Substack and read. You've released two essays since the documentary came out about Amy, and I thought you did a really good job with those, and it was, both of them were very insightful.
Well, thanks. Yes, I that is something I was starting, I think, even before this. It just kind of coincided. It was a beautiful way to honor her, and I hope to continue over some time. But yes, I have tried to do the best I can to highlight who she was as a human and who she was to me.
Were there any surprises in the documentary for you?
There was a couple of things that I didn't know. I think most of it was around the IP addresses.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that was interesting for sure.
and then the fact that the FBI thought it was Amy
Yeah.
or had
Well,
some.
that's an interesting thing that they put in there. My understanding is it was actually a retired agent and
Hmm.
who did some work on it and is now it has been in the private field for I think a couple decades now. And it is his opinion, but did it sway you one way or another into thinking, whether it's Amy or not in that photograph?
No.
Yeah. Do you think it is Amy or do you think it is not Amy?
Well, let me just say this.
Yeah,
I don't claim to know what happened to Amy 27 years ago.
sure.
I don't. I have my own personal feelings about what I think may or may not have happened. Um, but I don't. There are some likenesses, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um, but there's a part of me that thinks that's not her.
yeah.
There's a big part of me that hopes it's not her.
Sure, sure. That would be a tragic life
It
if
would be a
if the
tragic life.
trafficking theory is it holds true. I will say that, I've done a ton of research and there's not one confirmed case of a white woman being abducted and then trafficked in the Caribbean. So it would be a first. I think it's, hopefully very, very unlikely.
Yeah,
Um,
and I heard that same theory when we were doing the Netflix. That I heard that same information.
yeah,
Whether they said that out loud or not, there's
sure.
a lot of things. I'm sure they collected hours and hours and hours of information and could only put so much in the series. But that was one of the things when they were talking that they said as well. So
Now you were a big part of Amy's life for a little while. How long were you together at Longwood University?
we met my freshman year, which was 1994. The very first weekend I arrived, and we dated very soon after.
Hmm.
And then we were a couple into 1996,
So a couple years.
a couple of years. And then we were roommates even after that. Like we shared a dorm room um, after we split.
Okay.
So
Um, Now, why do you think this is information that's just coming out now? Like this is the first you and Molly, have been mourning Amy
mhm.
for, it's what is it, 27 years.
Mhm.
Why are we just meeting you now?
I don't, I think early on, we specifically myself, Amy and I had split. So
Yeah.
again, there was a little bit of a gap. I didn't have as much connection with her at the time. And so I just kind of sat back and was watching like everybody else, trying to understand really what was happening. I did hear that she was dating a man, which, you
But
know,
she was also dating a man in college while she was seeing
mhm,
you. What did that entail for her in college? When people say, "Oh, she dated men too."
right.
Tell me how that worked for her in college.
Well, specifically for us, and again, speaking on this relationship
Yeah.
specifically,
And we don't have to mention the guy's name.
no, is that when we first started dating, she was seeing someone else in college, and I asked lots of questions. I was very confused about the dynamic, and she said, absolutely, no one can know we're a couple. My parents won't accept us. I had actually been given some information by the coaching staff to kind of steer clear. I mean, they back in, and I think Sarah said this as well in the 90s, it just wasn't as accepted. And so there was a lot of shame um, and worry that surrounded the relationship. And so for that reason, we had boyfriends. And not only she had a boyfriend, but she asked me to have a boyfriend as well so that there would be no suspicion of us being a couple.
I think you
So
told
I
me,
actually dated that her boyfriend's brother
oh,
so that we
interesting.
could, yeah, we
And
could
you,
kind of keep it.
I think you even told me once that,
Mhm.
that while you were dating, there was this boyfriend that was there as kind of, I guess, what we would
Mhm.
call a beard. Um,
We would
does
call
that
it
work?
beer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
that works.
but that like didn't even get to like first base. Like there was no kissing. It was there for show.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah,
that's
there's even a picture. Yes. There was very little connection in that way
How did Amy identify?
as gay, as lesbian.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
I know there's been some, it's got to be hurtful to you and weird to see people debating that
Right.
online when you heard it from her yourself.
I did. And then again, it's odd that it's been 27 years only because it means that there was some kind of secret about it or some kind of shame about it or some kind of fear that if we brought it up that there would be a problem because of it. And yes, to say one thing when I know for a fact and saw her date other women and heard her in multiple ways say that she was gay and would never date a man and would never, want to be with a man. So clearly, it is an interesting thing to have to listen to other people say.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, the good thing is those are just, opinions and like
right.
assholes, everybody has one.
Yeah, right.
And you know the truth.
Yeah, I
Um,
do.
so you started seeing Amy in college. You shared a room together, and
Yeah.
then the summer came, and
Mhm.
you ended up spending that summer with the Bradleys.
I did.
How did that, and this is before you were Amy and your relationship was out. Um,
Correct. Before we came out, it was the summer after my freshman year. I was leaving Longwood the next semester to pursue a basketball scholarship somewhere else, and we just didn't want to leave each other. So she went home to ask if I could live with her for the summer, and they allowed me to, and I stayed with them that entire summer.
what was that like? Can you describe the family dynamic at all, or what was Amy, what was she like at home versus what she was like at college?
Yeah, it really is an interesting dynamic because the person I saw at Amy still, like, she loved, and I think I've said this before, she loved her family, and
Yeah,
I it was the closest group of people I have ever met, and it I got swept up in it that summer. I mean, it was
sure.
easy to feel something big, and that they love big and openly and out and just kind of um but she did it in a performative, you could tell it's in a performative way. She was the jokester. She laughed. It wasn't about feelings. It was just this big boisterous version of her. And the version I got to see of her, and I think was a little different than a lot of people, was when we were in college. It was the quiet moments, those late nights, the nights when we were alone, that she actually got to let down, and there was a quiet, more serious, sometimes, anxious or darker vibe than there was when she was anywhere else.
Did they come to learn that you and Amy were a couple while you were staying there?
No, no.
That's surprising to me that you were able to go under the radar that whole summer. I mean, that must have been, there's got to be some anxiety there, I'm sure.
There was a lot of close calls, and there was anxiety, and there was, a little bit of fear. And Amy was smoking and drinking, and just like she just was living life in a way that when I was 18 and she was a couple of years older than I came to college, and she was already so, I don't know, she just was living life so large. I don't know what the right words are, but you could just, she was just having fun and um, doing all of the things that I just hadn't yet kind of settled into.
She didn't waste a day,
She did not.
from everybody I've talked to, she got the most out of life,
Yep,
every chance she could, which
yes.
which you don't meet too many people like that.
No.
Um, and that's great. That's great. So so you managed to get through the summer with
Mhm.
this secret. When did it finally come out and how?
It came out when she came out to her family.
Why did she decide to come out finally?
I Again, 27 years later, what that one piece of information, it was surprising to me. I think Sarah knew. I came out to a teammate of mine, Julia, who was in the
Sure.
kind of by accident, you know, one of those, and maybe it was like one of those Freudian things. Like, I just couldn't keep it in. I just didn't live a life where I was managing boyfriends and girlfriends and friends and sports and all of those kinds of things. It probably felt, to me, a little restrictive.
Yeah.
And for her, it felt very necessary. And so when I remember accidentally letting the cat out of the bag to Julia, and I had to tell Amy, and I think Amy's response was a little bit of panic, trying to manage the situation. If I were, I mean, that's the sense of it. Again, time is tough to go back 27 years and remember every detail, but that's what I recall. So she, I guess, tells Sarah, she goes to tell her folks,
Do you go
and
with
my
her
immediate,
on that
you
trip? Do you go with her?
know,
No. So she goes back to
mhm,
Chester, is it Chesterfield?
Chesterfield.
Yeah. And then what happens next? Does she call you right away, or how long does it take for her to call you and let you know how things went?
I feel like I got a call pretty quickly, at least
This is
a phone call.
this is a time before texting, before
It was.
all that. So she had
Yeah.
to call you on a
Mhm.
landline. So
She
she
had to call me on the
calls
landline. Yeah,
and you now before we get to that,
sure.
you went home and kind of did the same thing and got a pretty decent response, right?
When she told me she was going home, I knew immediately I had to go home and tell my parents. My
Yeah.
biggest fear were that the Bradleys were going to be mad, call my family, and I wasn't going to get a chance to tell my own story. So
Yeah.
I jumped in the car, drove home, um, and
How did
came out to my family.
how'd it go?
I was lucky.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, okay, we know it's fine," and there was really hardly any mention of it.
Good.
They didn't ignore it.
Yeah.
They just it was a non-issue, and so that was the family life I grew up with.
Good.
They were also less involved in my life.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So we weren't so super connected.
Yeah.
So that gave a little bit of space for me to live my life. Um, but yeah, they were great. My 15-year-old sister was the best. She's the one I came out to first, and she couldn't have been any better with it. So
Good. And
yeah.
what about for Amy when she calls you and tells you how it went?
I wish I had that conversation in detail. I just don't. I just remember knowing that it was a painful conversation, and I got confirmation of that when I received the 3-page letter from her father.
Now, um, I
Mhm.
don't know if you've seen, but I think it's worth addressing just to clear the record.
Sure.
Her brother Brad was recently on social media and referred to it as just a couple paragraphs and nothing that
Mhm.
big. In reality, tell me what this letter was.
It was a 3-page letter written on um, yellow legal pad,
What did it
out
summarize?
outlining, yeah, outlining specifically his disappointment, the disappointment with me living in his house and with the situation. And again, I don't have the letter. It was rough 30 years ago. I didn't hang on to it
Yeah, who would
for
want
its
to?
sake. Yeah. I think I probably let my family read it. And I was like, this is the worst. To be fair, and I will say this, I love the Bradleys.
Sure. Yeah,
It was hard.
they're easy to love.
They're easy to love, and I loved the Bradleys. They treated me mostly like a kid, and I did everything with them, and so it was heartbreaking to get it. So
Were
I
you
remember it.
were you blamed for the way Amy was?
Yeah, I think that was the implication. Was that, yeah, you're the problem. You caused this. I don't think they loved me being around after that. Um,
Did they ever get to a point where they accepted and apologized for the?
Apologize? No.
No. So what
Was I
happens?
around after that? Did they allow some
Yeah.
of that? Yes. Did they apologize? Absolutely not.
What happens with Amy and your relationship after that?
Well, one, we were 20,
Yeah.
in our early 20s. It was a interesting time anyway. It did put a lot of stress on the relationship because now we were tied as the coming out relationship, to which there was a blame on her, from her family. And, so we started to go our separate ways. And the relationship ended not long after.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me just catch up here.
Yeah.
There's, while we're talking about this, there's one other thing I want to give you the opportunity to respond to. Again
Sure.
on social media, you know, Brad referred to you as a jealous ex-girlfriend. That's why you're
Yeah.
coming out now. I That hurts because I know you and know you
Yeah.
well. Um, is there any jealousy after 27 years?
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, I mean, again, I wouldn't have sought this out actually
I know you
after
didn't. It
27 years.
it took
Yeah.
a while for you to get comfortable enough to speak to the documentary people and to me. It
Yeah.
wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't. And it's one because is it important
Right.
that she's gay? I don't know that it's going to change anything specifically, but it's great information about who she is, and we wanted to give her the voice. And after 27 years, if this is the story, we wanted to be able to add color to it.
Yeah.
She's a colorful woman, and so could it potentially mean that there were new leads? Maybe. And so after 27 years, I finally thought, you know what, you know, it can only help at this point. It can't
Yes.
hurt anything. We're not in the 90s anymore. We're in a different time,
Yeah.
and people are accepted, and it should be a thing that people know that she was loved, that she was, again, complicated. She was interesting and textured, and we loved her.
Yeah.
Um, but it coming forward wasn't about jealousy. And Molly came on, and
Yeah.
Molly and I are really good friends today. And she dated Amy after me. Um, and so there's no jealousy. There's just this void of my first love that, fell in love with at 18. And unfortunately, this is the story of Amy thus far. And I just wanted to add a little more color.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
Um, in your heart of hearts, when you think about it, what do you think happened to Amy Bradley?
Again, I certainly wasn't on the ship. I didn't get a message in a bottle.
Yeah.
Um, I will say this. Iva reached out back in, say, 2008, 2009. And I told her this at the time. But sometime after Amy disappeared, I had a dream. And the dream was just complete darkness. I could tell I was floating, and I see something floating towards me. It comes up in light, and I can see her shining smile in her face. And she looks at me. She gives me a huge Amy smile, holds out her hand. We touch our fingertips, and she kicks off and goes to the surface. And I've had peace since then. Now, that might be my selfish. I hope she's at peace.
Yeah.
If this media attention brings new information again and we find her, it'll be the best thing in the world. But for me, I just don't think that's how the story's going to end.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not asking the Bradleys to stop looking. I'm just
Sure.
adding my 2 cents and and my dream and my thoughts about who she was and how amazing she was and how complicated. That's just,
That's wonderful. Yeah.
yeah. It's
Thank you
not to
for sharing
undermine
that.
them. It's just to share.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Uh, um, just a couple last questions.
Yeah.
The night that Amy d disappeared into the next morning, she was up until about
Mm-hmm.
3 a.m., 3:30,
Mm-hmm.
dancing with this guy, Yellow. Big, bulky African American man. Would Amy have gotten into any trouble if she was seen dancing with a black man on the cruise?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Okay. That's just one of the thoughts that I've had lately,
Hmm.
and I wonder about that. Um, you mentioned the dream. Thank you. Is there anything else that didn't come out in the documentary that you think is worth mentioning?
I know when we first started talking, it's you're trying to unearth 27-year-old
Yeah.
memories, and and she was so interesting and so alive, you know. And I think the only thing and I mentioned it that was really important for me to say was that one, she didn't do drugs ever.
Good. Yeah.
Two, is that she lived life on the edge. She enjoyed. We went bungee jumping. She, walked along the edges of things. She enjoyed pushing life to the edge. She also loved her family more than anything.
Yeah.
And
That's for sure.
yeah, no, I mean, and she was gay.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
The one takeaway that I've had after
yeah,
spending a year, speaking to people like you that knew her well, is
yeah,
it's given me a new way of looking at life and wanting to not waste any more time and to
mhm,
do the crazy things and the
mhm,
adventurous things. Not just because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but because why aren't you trying to get the most out of life right now like
yeah,
she did?
right.
Does that still follow you to this day? The influence that she had?
Yes, I think this had a really profound impact on me, and my life was a struggle for a while.
Yeah.
Um, and I do think that tapping back into this and remembering her and the way that she lived, again, I don't know if it was always the healthiest of ways,
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
but it has reminded me to focus on what we can, focus on living life to the fullest and to making the most. And I've certainly seen that with the connection with my friends from college who I hadn't talked to in 25 years, and Molly, and with all the people that have come out of the woodwork to share her stories. And I definitely feel that in my life today more um, than I ever have,
That's great.
or that I have in a really long time. Maybe it's a better way to say that.
Good. Thank
Yeah.
you very much again for jumping on here. I'm glad I wanted to give you some space to, kind of
Yeah.
correct some things and talk about the documentary. I hope we keep in touch and,
Yeah.
I hope you like the book when it comes out. I'll be sure to get you an early copy. And, I'm always here if you have anything else to say.
Well, thank you, James. You've been amazing, and I appreciate the time.
True Crime This Week is a Fearful Symmetry production. Photo and artwork are licensed through Shutterstock. If you like the cut of my jib, I have another podcast you might enjoy called The Philosophy of Crime, in which I attempt to solve the big questions behind our true crime obsession by looking to philosophy for answers. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week. Sit, Brownie, sit. Good dog.